Welcome back to the new Yachtsman. Today I've got some great guests. They've got a great background in yachting, and they also do video walkthroughs of a lot of different boats that I think you'll find interesting. And, they kind of got into this like all of us do, kind of jumped in with both feet, learned along the way. And I think we'll learn a lot from them. So, Victoria and Rico, why don't you introduce yourselves and let us know how you got started in all this.
Oh, well, hey guys, I'm Victoria Chalaya. This is my husband, Rico Stoll, and we have two YouTube channels now. One focusing on yacht walkthroughs called NautiStyles, and another one is focusing on our
New build.
still hull Explorer yacht build called Nautiguys, NAUTI, that is. So we've come a long way in the past 8 years of our yacht life.
Yeah, and like quickly, I mean, we have owned boats now for 8 years.
8 years.
Yeah, 8 years. I also own a marine business. It's a dealership. I mean, it's multiple layers to the business, but one part is a dealership. We are a tender dealer, Yamaha outboard dealer, e-propulsion electric motor dealer, and then on the bigger boats we do yacht maintenance, yacht management. And I used to captain more and crew more, but now, like with the busy schedule, that kind of is a little less now with the captaining.
So we're kind of talking to the new yachtsman today. And how did you get started, and what did you find kind of helped you the most get into this?
So when we started in this, I mean, when we met, actually, Rico told me that he would like to live on a boat, which I was like, well, that's interesting. I would be interested in that. And then I was like, well, show me what you're talking about. And he took me on board of like one sailboat, not going to mention any names. And when we went on board, it was an older sailboat. And I was like, you sure about this? And he was like, yeah, actually kind of not sure now. And I said, well, you might want to like join a sailing club and actually get your ASA certification and just have an idea so we can charter different boats and just figure out what we like.
Yep.
And that's exactly what
he did. It was a pretty good advice back then. I would have bought something I would have not bought 2 years later.
Yeah.
With what I knew back then.
So he got ASA certified and got in the sailing club. And we started chartering. We chartered a whole bunch of different sailboats, all sorts of sizes with our friends. And it was that was a great,
monohulls, multi-hulls,
like great way to get into it and just figure out, what was interesting to us. And that just started this whole journey as we realized like, wow, this is, there's a lot more to it than you initially think. Yeah, so that was how we got into it. And then once we wanted to actually buy a boat, that was a whole other journey.
Well, that also made us understand that we really like being out on the water, and we were thinking, okay, how can we maybe even make money being on the water? And we gotten into like when we're in California and LA, and have like a huge dolphin population, or one of the largest dolphin populations in the world, kind of on the Southern California West Coast, plus a whole bunch of different whales all year round. So we said, like let's take people out. Let's take people out dolphin watching, whale watching, and we were starting looking at a center console to do like a
small.
six pack.
And ended up with a 47-foot boat. So
I think the key is like if you are not 100% sure where you're going to be ending up, the easiest probably would be to go to local boat shows, so you can go on a whole bunch of different boats and really like get a feel like what do you like, what do you don't like what feels big, what doesn't feel big, because on picture or on a video it's sometimes hard to judge. Is it something I feel comfortable in? Is it too small? Is it too big? And yeah, I think that helped a lot. We went on a whole bunch of different boats, and that shaped our decision in the end.
Yeah, I found that, it's easy to find sailboats for charter in the Caribbean and Bahamas and stuff. It's kind of tough for the new yachtsman to understand what like owning a motor yacht is, because it's a little more difficult to find a $2 million motor yacht to go rent for the weekend. So I think maybe your walkthroughs would help there, because I think it's really, really hard to find a nice new late model boat that's not in a charter fleet that's 20 years old and rough. Have you found that on the West Coast as well?
Yeah,
I mean, West Coast yacht charters are definitely even more difficult, I'd
than
say.
East Coast, yeah,
I
or
guess,
Caribbean.
yeah, Florida would be, would be a better spot, I think. But yeah, for over here is it's definitely difficult. And we are actually, the new yacht we're building is going to be we were going to do an owner operator part-time charter. So we totally get what you're saying. It was part of the reason why we decided to do it, because it's very, very difficult to find something like that. I think in California, if you're looking for a yacht, the best way to go about it is really the boat shows
Mhm.
and finding yourself a broker that would understand what your needs are and get you in as many boats as possible. We try to do our walkthroughs in the way that people can have a really good idea of what's out there. So we do a lot of different boats from all sorts of different backgrounds, and just to kind of give you a rounding understanding of like, okay, which direction do I want to go? But once you kind of have an idea, the best way to do it to just really start looking at boats, I think.
Yeah, and I think that the, where you're going to go boating kind of drives what boat it is too. I know that you guys
Also.
have very different requirements out there on the West Coast. You've got big oceans with big waves, and you've got big logs, and, going fast is not important at all. Whereas, my Bahamas customers, they want to go from Miami to Bimini as fast as they can and check into the marina and, be able to go for a 4-day trip. So I really think that the environment, your goal or your destination is really important.
Well, we can relate because we just basically moved to Miami from LA, as we now officially sold our boat 2 days ago. So that is part of the reason why, because the Caribbean is so close and Exumas is our favorite place in the world.
Even though our boat will be full displacement, so our top speed is going to be 11 knots and our cruising is 9. So we're going to take it slow.
Yeah, I think slow's fine as long as you have the time. I find that when I'm talking to some of these new yachtsmen, they're coming out of they're executives in a fast-paced world, and they've got a fast sports car, and they may even have an airplane, and to tell them they're going to sit in front of the window at 7 knots is not going to work out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's everyone's different, and there's a boat out there for everybody. That's what we always say. It's all about the application, how you're going to use it. 100% agree.
Yeah.
And what about the long distance passage making? I find that a lot of people dream of doing that, but not many people really enjoy it. Have you done a lot of long trips?
I mean, Rico has done definitely more than I have. We actually are probably one of the very few channels, in a nautical niche, like say compared to other sailing channels that have an interest to really cruise the world. Like we never really came into it that way. We really were interested in living on a boat and being able to, to go places, but not really like circumnavigating was never really a goal. With the yacht we're building now, we are starting to consider,
but still not circumnavigate.
But not really circumnavigate. Yeah. So I think
we at least will have the tool to do it. We could go. I mean, if I wanted to do the Pacific Northwest Passage 1 year, that would be probably a good boat to do it with. But in the meantime, I agree with you. Like a lot of people have this romantic idea of like, oh, I'm going to sail around the world. Oh, I'm going to go in the South Pacific. And
I'm going to go back and forth every year.
And they're prepping the boat for like 5 years, and the boat will never leave the marina. Where I'm kind of like, okay, maybe not that realistic. You should have maybe just gotten something to have fun close by, and you would have actually used the boat.
I do a lot of boating, and I did a trip 8 days, 8 nights, no land. And by day 3, I was done. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah, I just 4 days at sea without seeing anything. I was really surprised when I got, 150 miles offshore at how little life there was. You're so used to coastal cruising, and you get way out in the ocean, and there's not a stick or a bird or a bait fish. I mean, we're in the Puerto Rican Trench for a day and a half, and I swear I didn't see a living thing for 2 days. I mean, it doesn't even feel like you're moving.
That's crazy.
But, I do get it that people want to be able to get to, the only way to get to Bora Bora by boat is by boat, right? You gotta pay your dues to make the voyage so that you can enjoy being in Bora Bora for 3 weeks. So I get why people do it, but I'm surprised when I talk to the new yachtsmen. I think they watch some of these, half-hour videos on YouTube about crossing to the Azores, and you can't in a half-hour video get a feel for what it's like to stare out the same window for 14 days.
But
Yeah.
I think it also more so, it's not the actual crossing itself, it's what goes into it to prep the boat for such a journey, and what goes into it after the fact, after the boat makes such a journey, and what you all need to do to service and maintenance and make sure that the boat is good afterwards, and how much money is involved. I think a lot of people have this romantic idea, and the first thing when people look at our walkthroughs, and sometimes we have a spec sheet in every single video, which usually is confirmed by, it has to be confirmed by either a broker if it's a used boat, or the yacht manufacturer. And sometimes we don't get the range, given to us. And I mean, we can sometimes calculate it, but I just, don't like to do that unless it was confirmed. So sometimes the range is not included, and people get really upset when they're like, what's the range on this boat? And, let's say it's, I don't know, give an example.
Regular motor yacht.
Yeah,
flybridge motor yacht.
like a
where you
coastal
kind of like,
cruising
it's like,
motor yacht. Like
it doesn't
Yeah, and
matter.
I found, I run a lot of motor yachts, and I find that the stated range is a speed you never run.
Yeah, of course.
Exactly.
If you run this $5 million yacht at 7 knots, you can cross the ocean. But you didn't buy this $5 million yacht to go 7 knots, did you? You bought it to do 20 knots, and at 20 knots, the range is 1/5 of that number.
Yeah.
Correct. Or people go like, oh my gosh, but the range is only 500 nautical miles. I'm like, that's a good range for you, especially if you're starting out. If you think you're going to be crossing ocean back and forth, it's not just about fuel. It's a lot of money involved in prepping the boat and dealing with everything that comes afterwards. I think that's something that people don't really understand. That's definitely a romantic idea. I agree.
Yeah, I see even people with 120 footers shipping their boat to Europe, because if you do the crossing, the first place you go is a boatyard.
Correct.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you wanna fly in and start using your boat, if you have a crew bringing it across, it doesn't mean that you arrive there everything is going to be working and for you to enjoy the boat.
It's hard on the material too. I mean, it's a lot of hours on the engines, generators, everything.
So I get these guys that are getting into yachting for the first time, and they're not 20, right? They're older. And advice-wise, I get a lot of people that say start with sailing, but I don't really think you need to start out sailing this day and age. What are your thoughts on that?
Well,
I think it's the easiest way to start, because as you said, it's not so easy to charter bareboat power yachts in a lot of different areas. Seems like the sailing clubs are just a kind of an easy entry point. If you have a way of starting, in the power yacht, bareboat charter, great. But I feel like that's not as as available.
I kind of have a little different take on it. I mean, first of all, like every time I've transferred a sailing boat or we've chartered sailing vessels, a lot of time you end up motor sailing or motoring just because you're on a schedule. And you're just trying to go from point A to point B, and the weather conditions are not perfect for that journey, for example. Another thing is what I've noticed with clients of mine, which were really into sailing, had big sailing boats. I mean, they're talking like 80, 90-foot monohulls. As they were getting a little up in age, their mobility wasn't as much anymore, as great anymore than like it was when they bought the boat. And so I would say, like, if you have, like, to your question, it's like, would you say people should start with sailing and then move over to power at some point? I would say, like, I think there's no negative aspect to starting with power if you just don't like the sailing. It's more work, it's more stuff, it's more liability, it's a whole different boat. Like usually less space for the length of the hull, less volume. I could go on and on.
The sailing has a whole nother aspect of learning that, just makes that learning curve so much steeper.
I agree. Does it hurt if you start sailing and then move to power? Absolutely not, because you still learn stuff which you can apply in the powerboat world too when you're docking and so on. I mean, I always tell, like when I teach clients, I always tell them, it's like, look at the sailboat's mast on top. There's your wind indicator. You know where the wind is coming from, as a little help if you don't have a wind instrument on the powerboat, on the smaller ones. So
But
yeah.
is the question, just so I understand, is the question when you say start, like buy your first boat, sailboat, or just try to get experience?
Just to get experience. I've got a lot of people that I'm finding want to get into this for the first time. And so much of the media out there is about sailing and worldwide cruising. And there just isn't much on the guy that just wants to buy a yacht in Miami and go to Bimini.
So true.
It's definitely true, but I do think by getting your sailing, starting how you started with sailing, even though we totally ended up in primarily power. I mean, you still do some sailing, but I think you're a better captain because of it. You have a lot more understanding of the wind, a much better understanding of the wind, which is still really important on the power vessel as well when you're docking. And I think you're a better captain for it. So if you have no way of just jumping into a buying a yacht, and you're still a year or two away from that, and you want to get a lot of good experience operating, I think doing some sailing is a good thing.
Yeah, no doubt that if you can dock a 60-foot sailboat with no bow thruster and a single engine, you can dock anything.
Agreed.
It definitely helps a little.
Let me back you up a little bit. Tell me about your first kind of couple months aboard a yacht after living on land your whole life. What's that like?
It's interesting because when we started this journey, I kind of said, like, yeah, I could do this for like a couple years, and fast forward 8 years, and I have zero interest in living in a house at this point. Like, really, truly enjoy living on the boat.
I think it's a question is what kind of boat. So when people have these, I met people along the way, they got inspired by, let's say, YouTube channels, TV shows, whatever it might have been, friends, and they're just like, oh, I want to live on the boat. And then they're looking at their budget and see what they can get, and then they end up, let's say, with a 40-foot monohull sailboat, and the couple moves onto the boat, and fairly quickly they realize this is really little space. Like, it's you're down below, you're not having this beautiful views because it's a monohull sailboat. And so I think it really depends, like, what kind of choice you're making if you want to live on a boat. And obviously, what's your plan? Like, is it more like a condo on the water, so it's going to sit in the marina most of the time? Or do you really think like, okay, I'm going to do 1,000 miles there, 500 miles there? Like, then that might change a little bit. But we have not regretted at all.
No, I think we've made a right decision with the yacht that we bought, because we have a lot of space. We do feel like it does feel like a yacht, not like a boat. You don't feel like you majorly downgraded.
Mm-hmm.
And so but we do know quite a few couples that tried this, bought the wrong boat, had a bad experience, and left the whole idea. Usually it's usually one person's happy, the other one's not. And so the other person who's not happy said, I will never do this again. And it just kind of ruined the whole experience. I think it's really important to do your due diligence and research before you pull the trigger and move aboard, because it might be, it might be your last time. It actually will be your last time you move on board, because either you're going to live on board for a long time, or you will never do it again. So that's kind of your only chance to do this right the first time.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of guys end their yachting career by taking their wife out on the day they shouldn't have left the dock.
Exactly. Rico says this all the time.
It's amazing how 4 hours can change the rest of your life.
You are so correct.
Just giving this advice to somebody
who is like really excited, and he's looking for a quite big boat, and he's got
a good budget.
He has a really good budget, and for the whole family. And he said, and so I said, like, okay, no matter what you do, just pick the calmest day for the first time when you take the family out. You don't want everybody to get seasick, and nobody wants to ever come back to the boat. And I think that is like Yeah, 100%.
Well,
Nail on
because
the head.
you go out 5 times, you have a great time, and then you have a once, kind of a not such a good day. You kind of go, okay, yeah, but like it's just happened. But if your first time is bad,
Yeah.
it just leaves a bad taste in your mouth. You never want to do it
And
again.
especially guys, I mean, like it's your new toy. You want to use it immediately and you don't care. Well, 30 knots, who cares? Like, let's just take the boat out for an hour. And it's like, okay, that was it.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of couples I find that are successful at it, they don't have the same goals. So the guy has his brother
Yeah.
come with him, and he hires a local kid to help him, and the three guys run the boat 1,000 miles to get it up to Nantucket, and the kid flies home, the brother flies home, the wife flies in, the grandbabies fly in, and they putz around in the boat for 3 weeks, and everybody has a great time. I just think the key is that not everyone has to be on the journey, because that's not what yachting's all about. It's, the yacht is the destination as well as the journey, and not everyone has to go on every journey. I know my wife gets
so
seasick,
true.
and I know to leave her at the dock if it's not great.
Yeah. 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 No, I couldn't agree more.
And you guys are going to do some charter stuff too when you get your new boat built?
Yeah,
Take people
that's
out?
the plan.
That'll be great.
That's the plan.
We're gonna start in the Bahamas.
Yeah, do like week-long Exumas
Yep.
trips?
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of like the plan for now, at least for the first season. And then
We've been doing that for gosh, the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Just a few trips a year, with a like bareboat charter boat, and then we basically put together a charter. So we have a good amount of experience with it, and we enjoy it. It's a lot of work, but we do like it. And we definitely part of the reason that we went for such a large vessel, we don't really need such a big boat for the two of us, was because we wanted to be able to do the charters.
Right. Well, that's great. I think that's all been really helpful. And
Awesome.
Tell us about your YouTube channels again.
So our walkthrough YouTube channel called NautiStyles, and it's Nauti Styles, and our new channel where you could follow our journey of building our Explorer yacht is called Nautiguys, and it's Nauti guys.
And there we're going to
Great.
go more in detail and dive into the whole build process and our decisions and why we make the decisions, or why we're making the decisions. Yeah.
Well, I'd love to check back in on you guys on the new construction, maybe 6 months or a year when
Sounds
not all
good.
flat on the floor.
Yeah, it sounds good. Would love that. Thanks for having us.
Same here. I'd like to see it going up as well.
Well, thank you very much. And everyone out there, please like and subscribe if you found this interesting.
Thank you
so
guys.
much for having us.
All right. See you later.